It's a segment we like to call Phil's Five. Tell me, who was your favorite player growing up?
Wow. I was always a Sonny Jurgensen fan for some reason. Way back in the 70s, I didn't know anything about football. And first I thought Joe Namath played for the Redskins. And then I was a Redskin fan and found out, wait a minute, because I think I misread a photo caption or something. And then, wait a minute, he plays for the Jets. Okay, well, who's on the Redskins since they're my favorite team? Sonny Jurgensen. Okay, so he was my favorite player. And I was actually talking to Sonny on the phone last year. I was doing a story on related to the 70-20 loss to Miami because he was the quarterback when Washington destroyed the Giants 72-41 in 1966, which remains the highest scoring regular season game for any particular team. So I did talk to Sonny on the phone last year.
That's pretty cool to be able to talk to, your favorite player growing up.
Yeah, true. So, no, I'd met him once before. I think I saw him at a Vikings Redskin game. But, yeah, he's like late 80s, but he seems to be doing pretty well. I had a few good quips when I talked to him on the phone last year for an interview.
Okay, and then what about your favorite player to cover, Chris? Who's somebody that you've been around throughout your career that you've got a chance to rub elbows with, that your favorite player to cover?
Well, I'll throw out a guy who previously would have been pretty obscure, but he's probably not now since he's the head coach of Kentucky. That would be Mark Pope, the former journeyman NBA center. I covered him with the Denver Nuggets for the late, great Rocky Mountain News, and he was just a pleasure to talk to. He was always like the last guy on the bench, and they were always stashing him on the injured list with made-up injuries. Knee tendonitis was a favorite one. And he told me a story about how he once asked a team to put him on the injured list with dandruff. But, they didn't go for that.
Yeah, that it would be hard to miss a game that way, I guess. What about your favorite interview? Like, do you have a memorable moment that, you were interviewing a guy that really stands out?
Well, I'll throw out. I'll throw out this interview. It's probably a little bit depressing, but Fred Cox, the former longtime Vikings kicker who invented the Nerf football, he actually made more money inventing the Nerf football. I interviewed him in 2019, and sadly, he was in hospice care and. Knew he was soon going to die. He had heart and kidney stuff. And it was, he talked about how he led a great life and gave a phenomenal interview and had, put it up, and it's still on YouTube. And then 4 days later, he died. And
Wow.
that was kind of just memorable. I used to cover the Vikings. He was their all-time leading scorer. And it was amazing the courage that he had, knowing that he was days away from dying, but knew he'd had a great life with the Vikings, inventing the Nerf football, and he also became a dentist as well. So that interview stands out.
Wow, inventing the Nerf football, that's very cool. I mean, that is introducing the game to, millions of kids every year. So that's a pretty cool legacy. Nerf football, I always think back to, I don't know if you remember that John Elway commercial, where he's up at Folsom Field in Boulder, and he's like throwing the football, like 100 yards with the Nerf football. that always sticks out to me when I think about Nerf football. Okay, next one for you here is what's the part of your job that you enjoy the most?
I think it's just, getting some of those interesting interviews and kind of finding out backstories. I did a story about a month or so ago. I was just kind of browsing around to find out who the oldest living former Broncos quarterback was. And it was a guy named Hunter Enos who played in just a couple games in 1962 and threw two passes. And like, who's this guy? Did a little research and found out that he went into the oil and gas business and eventually sold out for $500 million. So the trivia question is, who's the richest former Broncos quarterback? Is it Peyton Manning? No. Is it John Elway? No. Nope. It's Hunter Enos. He's 87 years old, lives in Fort Worth, Texas, and he's worth $500 million or so. So
Oh my
it's just
gosh.
kind of finding out those interesting stories that maybe you didn't know about before.
Yeah, you got to have that curiosity, huh? I mean, I feel like just being around you in the locker room and that kind of thing, you are always so curious and just talking to anybody around to find something interesting, huh?
Well, I kind of joked once. I actually said this to somebody. I was at the Las Vegas Summer League and I'd done all my interviews for the day. And somebody asked me if I was going to work in my hotel room or not. And I said, I'll just go work at this Summer League facility because, at that point, there were some rumors that Kenny Martin had been suspended by the Nuggets a month or two earlier, and no one had talked to him or he'd given no interviews. And I joked with someone, yeah, I think I'll go work at the facility because I don't think Kenny Martin's going to walk into my hotel room, but maybe he'll be at the facility. And lo and behold, I go work at the facility, and Kenny Martin walks in. So I got an interview with him there. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a luck favors the prepared, right? I think is what they say. So that's awesome. And then the last one for you for the segment here is what's an event that you'd like to cover that you've not had a chance to cover yet in your career?
Well, I've been fortunate in my career. I've been able to cover 5 Olympics and, Super Bowls and Final Fours and even covered 2 Mr. Olympia bodybuilding competitions where I was the skinniest guy there, including the women. But the one that I'd like to cover would be a World Cup. I had a chance to go to a World Cup game as a fan in 1994. And, I would have had to drive a long while with a friend, but that was kind of dumb. I probably should have not turned that down. So World Cup's coming to America. Maybe I'll try to finagle my way to one of those games, but would like to cover a World Cup game.